Well, hello and welcome to the very first video I have in the Project Ichor series. Now this series is mainly for your enjoyment and edification as to the goings-on that happens in regular old pond water. Now this particular video that you're watching here was composed of 3 samples that I took very recently from the aquarium that I keep next to my garden. I let it go stagnant, and it has several different varieties of organisms, from plant life to animal life. As this is the first video, I will be doing a little bit of an intro while you're watching what happens on the screen. There should be some text that will explain some of the things that happen, in addition to my own commentary. But enough about that. Let's get to the first organism that I found in sample A. Now, this is actually the first time I've ever seen this in my life, so I was very surprised to find it here. This ostracod in this video is green. I'm totally shocked. I've never seen this, and I've seen many ostracods, at least freshwater kinds. I certainly looked at these ostracods before. I know there are many marine ostracods that are different colors, but this type of ostracod I've never seen looking green. At first, I thought that maybe the color I had was off. The white balance might have changed the coloration, but here's another one swimming around, and you can see that they're swimming around in a little bit of this sort of pond scum, kind of a graveyard of Ostracod shells you can see everywhere it's surrounded by. But for some reason, this shell is green. At first, I thought, okay, maybe there's 2 reasons. The first reason might be that it's eating a lot of algae, and maybe that algae is making the body green. But that doesn't make very much sense, I don't think, because whether the shell is calcium carbonate or chitin, it doesn't matter. I don't think it would change the color of the shell, but I could be wrong. The second possibility is that the algae is on the shell and it's existing on the shell itself. That sounds more plausible to me, but I couldn't really find an explanation on the internet. If you happen to know why, please tell me, because I don't. Additionally, here we see a particular kind of organism that I see a lot, but it's very difficult to track. This is a Rotifer, and I have put up the particular class and order of this Rotifer, at least the class that I believe it to be. Like I said before, it's quite difficult to isolate, and it's quite difficult to examine without some sort of a oil or something that would slow down the movements of these organisms. We're only about 3 minutes in, and we've already hit one of my favorite organisms in this video. It's probably the most interesting one that I've found, and I'm not quite sure what it is, actually. I said that I would try to identify as best I could the creatures that are in these water samples, but I'm not quite sure what it is. Part of me says it's a nematode, part of me says it's a water worm, and the other part says that it's some sort of a larvae. I'm really not sure. What I do know is that it's a pretty complicated organism compared to the other ones that are here, and that I really enjoyed tracking it on my first video. Now, I had to significantly edit this video because I got so enamored in watching this nematode thing move around in its environment. So if you want to see more information, or if you want to see more video footage that I couldn't fit in this particular video with all 3 samples, please click the banner that I have in the lower left, and it will take you to a video with extra footage. for people who want to figure out what this creature was. I'm still thinking I think it might have been a freshwater worm or a nematode at the very least. We move on from sample A to sample B. This is a very small water droplet. Both of these are small water droplets. And here we confirm that there is a difference, a variance between the ostracods that I saw in the beginning that were green and the ostracods that I saw here, which are brown. So it wasn't a white balance issue. There really were green ostracods, which I was so surprised to see. Ever since high school, I've had a very weird affinity for these little seed shrimp. I think it's because of my first encounter with an ostracod. My teacher believed it might have been a pupa or a pupa of some sort of a insect that was trying to eclose and come out. But it ended up being a simple ostracod, and I was very surprised that my science teacher couldn't tell what it was, since that's such a common organism. I've also seen these small creatures, these ones that are flicking about. You can see them as the camera focuses. I'm not quite sure what these could be. They might be copepods, but I think they're too small for that, because copepods can be about the size of an ostracod sometimes, at least the cyclops species. They could be they kind of remind me of the movements for Daphnia, but I don't think that's correct. I did put some Daphnia in my aquarium, but I can't find them anymore. I think they might have died. That doesn't mean that the eggs couldn't have hatched, but I don't think that's what these are. If you know what they are, or if you have an idea, please comment and try to explain it to me. Here we've come across another rotifer. Now, these rotifers are everywhere, like I've explained before, but it's so hard to track them as they dash through the debris at quick speeds. I tried my very best to track this particular one here at this point in the video. I feel like it's a little bit less obscured in some parts. You might have to pause to get a good idea about what it looks like. It's somewhat oblong. It's oval. It's oval shaped, not colored, and it can switch directions quite easily. As we close off sample B, we come across this ostracod, and this footage I thought was funny enough to put in. So, sample C. Sample C didn't have a whole lot of different organisms, though it did have a few things that were quite interesting to me that I thought I would include. One of the things being the green ostracod, and it is at this point that I realized that the coloration could also be algae living on the shell. The ostracod in question here is quite a hungry little guy, don't you think? He or she, rather, it's kind of hard to tell, is definitely chowing down on this scum. I keep saying pond scum, but I mean that's not completely true. That's not a very accurate term for whatever this is. A lot of it's I think poop, more or less. I think it's snail and other excrement, maybe some brown algae, but for the most part I believe it's refuse. Different species of ostracods have different characteristics. The biggest one for identification would be the shape of the shell, in addition to the amount of appendages that the ostracod has. Some ostracods have 7 legs, some ostracods have 6 legs, some ostracods have a special appendage on the bottom. Some of them are shaped more circular, some of them are shaped more rectangular. These characteristics allow you to figure out what kind of ostracod that you have. I included this part because I don't see it very often. This is a very well preserved Ostracod shell, so you can see in 3 dimensions the size and sort of orbular shape that Ostracod can have at a full size. I have to state again that this Ostracod that's green is quite interesting, and I'm very happy to have found it. Here I am putting some more light, which makes the Ostracod react because it has an eye spot that is for this sort of thing, for detecting light. And here you can see the all the different parts of the body. You see the pulsations of the stomach, which is next to the eye. So is the heart, which is that darker spot. Near the what would be the back of the ostracod, you can see something that's pulsating. It looks like 2 halves are kind of squishing together, and I'm not quite sure what that is. It could be the brachial pads. Anyways, that banner up there, if you click on it, will direct you towards the movie that I have for ostracods, and in particular these ostracods that I have found uh, living in my aquarium. There's so many different kinds, but even so, the level that I've identified them is to the order, but that's okay. It's still edifying to know if you're going to compare these ostracods to some other, perhaps marine variant. At this point, I finally tire of seeing one green ostracod and decide to compare it to another. Here we have 2 different ostracods of 2 different colors, just about the same size, and they're even right next to 2 rather well preserved shells. Perhaps because it's my first time seeing them, I just can't get enough. I said I was tired, but really that was a lie. I can't stop watching the new ostracods that I found here. I think now would be a good time to explain how these ostracods are eating. You see, it uses its antenna and its front, which are somewhat like front legs, and it sort of flutters the food, the algae, the scum, into its, well, maxilla, which is like its mandible. And then it uses its shell to kind of pinch it off, and then it sort of keeps the scum and it churns it a lot, and then it gets into the stomach, and then it processes it. Here we have a rotifer, and luckily it's more or less sessile, so it's not going to be moving too much, which is a boon to us because we want to look at the thing. I'm not quite sure why it's not moving, but I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. We are ending our video pretty soon. This is the end of sample C. I am very glad that if you've gotten this far, you found this at least mildly interesting. So this is the first week of Project Ichor. There will be more to come. Hopefully there will be more interesting things to see. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.